Boxing games hold a sacred corner in the memories of retro gamers from the 80s and 90s. Flashes of Ring King, the 8 and 16-bit Punch-Out titles, and boxing Legends of the Ring may be flooding your minds at this very moment. But none of these home console classics would be revered today if it weren't for those pioneering boxing arcade contributions, which until recently I had always assumed Nintendo's 1984 Punch-Out arcade cabinet was the first to hit the market. But it was Sega who, dare I say, beat them to the punch in the arcades in the 1970s. So today we're gonna dive into this classic arcade game that kicked off the boxing frenzy in video games. Trust me, you do not want to miss this deep dive into Sega's boxing game history, and what appears to mark the beginning of the fighting game genre, with Sega's now forever lost and extinct boxing title, Heavyweight Champ. Let's get started. And if this is your first time here at the channel, my name is Tyler, and if you love gaming from all generations like we do here at G3, then consider hitting that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss anything. Developed by Sega and released in Japan and the United States in 1976, Heavyweight Champ was one of the first arcade games to introduce a novel concept: the ability to physically interact with the game. Players used a unique dual joystick setup resembling boxing gloves, with each player controlling a glove, allowing for high and low punches with in and out movements of the joysticks. This interactivity took the gaming experience to an entirely new level. But what inspired the creation of this game? The mid-1970s saw boxing rise in popularity, fueled by legends like Muhammad Ali. This uptick in interest made it a perfect environment for a boxing-themed arcade game. Sega capitalized on this opportunity with Heavyweight Champ, allowing players to step into the ring and feel the excitement of a boxing match. Now let's talk graphics. Heavyweight Champ's visuals may seem quaint by today's standards, but you have to remember, back in 1976, this was cutting edge. These visuals do make it hard to believe, but Heavyweight Champ laid the foundation for sports games and beat-em-ups, despite only displaying a black and white palette with bizarre-appearing boxers, which I would compare more to two pugilists fighting in Adam West's Batman costumes. Players were not just passively observing, they were playing a part of history. Sadly, this groundbreaking sports title is considered lost media today, with no definitive surviving cabinet found currently. According to Lost Media Wiki, around 2018, photos of a damaged cabinet were found from Yahoo Japan auction, but this cabinet has seemed to vanish into obscurity. Luckily, CBS Channel 8 News in San Diego preserved a 1977 segment featuring Sega Center, or as they called it, Sega Center, for patrons to enjoy a collection of early Sega arcade titles, with Heavyweight Champ racking up some watch time during the broadcast. Check it out here.
Electronic games have come a long way since Pong exploded on the scene a few years ago. Perhaps owing its inspiration to the hit movie Rocky, one of the machines lets 98-pound weaklings play heavyweight champion. That's just one of the space-age games of the new Sega Center in Fashion Valley.
The play is much more challenging than it used to be, and also your space required per machine is smaller. There's just so much more they can do with the programming of these video games. It's just a matter of imagination what's going to come out next.
Just a side note here, now I'm not the only one that wants to see what that Fonz game looks like. I mean, there's no way that game can be good. Sega would continue to produce multiple boxing games in the 80s and 90s for arcades, as well as its home consoles and handhelds, greatly contributing to the fading of 1976's Heavyweight Champ into the background of its boxing history, and likely being overshadowed by Nintendo's successful Punch-Out titles. But the proverbial nail in the coffin for the 1976 game was delivered in 1987 when they reimagined and re-released a Heavyweight Champ arcade cabinet, which noted improved boxing glove controls, dodging capabilities, and markedly improved graphics, which even had a see-through boxer concept similar to another popular 80s arcade entry. And am I crazy, or does this stadium look monstrous? It's like you're fighting in front of the whole universe. Sega again slapped the name of Heavyweight Champ on another boxing game in the early 90s, on the PAL releases of James Buster Douglas Boxing for the Sega Master System outside of North America, despite them actually being the same game. Adding to the confusion is George Foreman KO Boxing for the Master System and Game Gear, using the same template for its gameplay. I know I had the Game Gear version, and I liked the game, but man, they did George dirty by making him chow down on cheeseburgers between rounds. And to muddy the waters of Sega boxing games even more, the James Buster Douglas games were a hard genre to follow, because the Master System version was based on Heavyweight Champ, and the Sega Genesis version, which I owned as a kid, was again just ripped from another arcade boxing title called Final Blow. I mean, Sega had no shame just putting another coat of paint on a title and calling it a new game. As we reflect on Heavyweight Champ, its legacy is a reminder of how innovative ideas continue to spark creativity in game design. But the most important lesson to take away is that preservation of these classic arcade cabinets is essential for us not to only preserve history and its contributors' hard work, but to appreciate how far the genre of fighting games have reached today. Special shout out to Richie R6610 for finding Mullet Boy first in our last Game Genie video. Till next time guys, G3 out.